Nerds, how did you end up falling in love with your bully? I was the kid who wore the same Spider-Man hoodie every other day and carried a battered Pokemon lunchbox. Every morning before class, I'd be in the robotics lab tinkering with wires or coding something stupid just for fun. And every morning, Claire, the loudest, most popular girl on the soccer team, would find me. Careful, robot boy. Don't short circuit when you see daylight. She'd laugh, always with an audience. Then came the engineering fair. Winner got a $1,500 scholarship, and I'd already been building a water filtration prototype from recycled bottles. It was my chance. But the rule was pairs, and the universe decided to punish me. My partner was Claire. She showed up at my house late, gum snapping, hair still damp from practice, acting like she couldn't care less. I thought it was going to be a disaster until my little brother came barreling into the room. He shoved his toy spaceship into her hands and started explaining every made-up detail about it. Instead of brushing him off, she sat cross-legged on the carpet and played along, making whoosh noises and asking him questions. I stood there, speechless. After that, something shifted. She didn't care much for the coding, but she was sharp. She had ideas for design. She rehearsed the presentation. She even stayed late helping me test different materials. For someone who made fun of me every morning, she sure looked invested. One night in the garage, I finally asked why she acted the way she did at school. She fiddled with a rubber band and muttered, "Because that's what people expect me to be. If they knew I liked this stuff, I'd be a joke." By the time the fair came around, she knew my lines as well as I did. I handled the demo, she handled the delivery, and together, we nailed it. First place. When they announced our names, she hugged me without thinking, then pulled away blushing, like she hadn't meant to. On Monday, she walked past her usual table and sat with me at lunch, just her tray next to mine, talking about sci-fi movies like we'd been friends forever. People stared. She didn't care. For the first time, neither did I. A week later, she invited me to her birthday party. "Don't worry, it'll be fun. Just come," she said. I almost didn't go, but something in her voice made me. When I got there, the music was blasting. Everyone from her soccer team was there, and the second I stepped inside, every head turned toward me. Claire was standing across the room, whispering something to Madison, the same girl who used to laugh the loudest at her jokes about me. Madison smirked, and then I saw it. They were both looking directly at me. That's when it hit me. Either Claire had just risked everything to bring me into her world, or I just walked straight into a setup. My feet felt glued to the floor for a second, like the whole room was a slow-moving wave, and I was the lone buoy. Madison's smirk was sharp enough to cut glass. Claire's whispering with her felt rehearsed. I had two choices: turn tail and pretend I'd never been invited, or step forward and see which version of Claire was real. I stepped. She saw me coming and did this tiny, almost apologetic smile that made my chest go weird. For a second, just a second, she looked like the girl who'd sat cross-legged on my garage floor at midnight, rehearsing our presentation. Then Madison noticed me moving in, and her smile widened like she'd won. "Look who made it," Madison sang into her phone, making sure more heads turned. "Hey, robot boy, come show us your moves." Heat crawled up my neck. Someone in the crowd hollered for a dance-off as if that was the most natural next thing after publicly humiliating someone. I felt Claire's hand close on my sleeve, quick and hard enough to be an anchor. "Not that," she mouthed. Her breath smelled faintly of lemon candy. "Come with me." She pulled me toward the kitchen like we were in our own little current. For a few yards, I could hear the music dull into a thump and the laughter smear into a background hum. We ducked into a narrow hallway, lined with framed photos of varsity teams and trophies, and for a beat, it was just me and her and the hum of the party. "You okay?" she asked, quiet enough that the next room's bass couldn't swallow it. "Confused," I said. You invited me. Then you." "Madison wanted drama," Claire said. "She thinks embarrassing you would make her look cool. I told her I invited you because I wanted you there. She saw it as bait." "You told her?" I asked. "I lied," she said. "Mostly." Her jaw worked like she was chewing down a bad taste. "Listen, I didn't expect them to line up like vultures, but I also didn't expect you to actually show. Because you knew I would?" I tilted my head. "Because you wanted to see what would happen?" She stared at the floor, then threw her head back and laughed. One of those sharp, incredulous laughs you only ever hear from people who are both proud and exhausted. I wanted people to see me with someone who actually gets my dumb ideas, not as pity, not as a joke. I wanted to take it back, you know? There was something raw in that made me want to say the stupidest, most honest thing I knew, like "me too," or "weird flex, but I'll take it." But Claire beat me to the punch. "We need to get you out of there," she said, "before Madison decides to do something worse." "Like what?" I asked. My voice sounded thinner than normal. I'd been on the receiving end of worse plenty of times. I didn't need a list to know it could go ugly. Like the kind of viral clip you can't shrug off, the kind that sticks to your name. She looked at me like she already had a plan. "Come on, back door. I've got a car 2 blocks away." We slipped out the side and into the cool air. The parking lot smelled like cut grass and spilled soda. For the first time all night, I could breathe without the heat of an audience. Claire's hand found mine in the dark, like it was the most natural place in the world. I wanted to tell her that holding my hand felt like the simplest radical act, but instead I asked, "Why do you care?" She squeezed once. "Because I remember what it feels like to have people decide your story for you," she said. "And because when you tried to fix the experiment last week and that pump blew up in the lab, you didn't scream or blame. You just fixed it. You didn't give us the drama Madison expects." I liked that. We walked in silence for a few blocks. Her car was a beaten-up Corolla with a soccer bumper sticker. She fumbled her keys like she'd forgotten which side the lock was on, then jabbed the button and the trunk popped open like an invitation. She pushed me in before I could protest and shoved something into my hands. A small paper bag with 2 paper cups and a thermos. "Hot chocolate?" she asked. "You look like you could use it." It was ridiculous and kind, and exactly the kind of thing that would have earned her a sarcastic comment in the hallway. But here, it felt like an offering. I accepted it, balancing the cups on my knees, and she pulled the driver's seat toward her like she wanted to crash into me. We sat there for a minute, sipping and staring at the streetlights. Traffic hissed by. Someone down the block was laughing, like everything was fine. And for a second, I believed them. Then my phone buzzed. An unknown number. Nice party. See how easy it is to move the pieces? You should be careful who you trust. My chest dropped. I looked up and Claire's eyes were already on me, expectant and small. She took my phone without asking, thumbed the message, and read it twice before she handed it back. Who's playing? I asked. She chewed her bottom lip. Someone who doesn't like the idea that people, us, might change things. Someone who likes us staying in our lanes. Who? She flinched like naming them would make them real. Madison's not the type to plan a smear on her own. She's got people who will do it for her. People who want the drama. People who profit off it. So it's a network? She didn't answer directly. Instead, she leaned forward and said, "Promise me you won't respond to random numbers. If they want to scare you, they'll try to get you to react. Don't give them that," I promised. It felt like promising not to blink under a strobe light. We drove in a loop like we had nowhere to go until she pulled into a dim strip of parking behind a laundromat. "This is the safe spot," she said, then laughed at the word like it was a bad joke. "Don't ask why." She killed the engine and turned to me. "Look, I know I haven't been kind. I know sometimes I make you the butt of a joke to keep my place in the pecking order, but I didn't when it mattered tonight. And I wasn't asking you to believe me forever. Just let me show you I can be different." "Show me how?" I asked. She reached into the glove compartment and pulled out a small USB drive, white as a tooth. "I stole this from Madison's bag earlier," she admitted. "It's got raw footage from the party, sliders of her and her crew editing clips together. If we leak it, it exposes the whole setup. But it's messy. It makes us look like part of some manufactured drama, not just innocent targets. If we go nuclear, people will get burned. Leaking it could hurt more than help," I said, thinking about parents, scholarships, and names that don't come off easily once stuck. "I know." She set the cup down and rubbed the back of her neck. "But I figured if we control the narrative, we can at least spin it so the truth, Madison's truth, comes out. That she orchestrated stuff, asked for edits, wanted clips to go viral. I didn't want to do it at first. It felt like slamming a match into gasoline. But then I thought, why should you be the one to take the hit for being kind?" Her words did something weird in my chest. I wanted to believe her wholeheartedly. I wanted to be part of her plan. I wanted to be brazen and set the world on fire with truth. Instead, I felt the careful pull of consequences at my ankles. "Or," I said slowly, "we don't go scorched earth. We gather proof. We take it to Principal Harris, show him the unedited stuff, make him sit in a room and watch the way people weaponize a joke, humiliate him with his own policies if he won't act. We ask for timestamps, IP traces, everything." Claire's jaw worked. "You think Harris will do anything?" "I don't know," I swallowed. "But hiding and hoping's not a plan either." She nodded like she'd expected that. "Okay, we gather. We go to Harris. But if Harris stalls, we leak enough to make the district ask questions. Not to ruin anyone, just to make sure the truth is on record." We made a pact there in the dark Corolla. Gather everything, move carefully, and don't respond to threats. I should have felt safer after we agreed, but instead, a chill snaked down my spine when I remembered the anonymous text. Whoever had sent it knew more than they should have. They'd seen the lab clip, the locker photos, the party slideshow. They'd already been in my life and left fingerprints. We drove back to my street like conspirators, swapping plausible stories for where to get good backup copies, how to borrow a camera from Rita the librarian, who had a password to the school server in case we needed logs. Claire said my name like it was a password. "Jack, can you do this?" "Yeah," I said. At home, I lay awake propping the ceiling with my eyes and thinking about how I'd wanted the easy answer all week. The one where she'd been a bully, I'd been a nerd, and at the end we went back to our corners with some new medals. Instead, the world had handed me a messier option: stay small and safe, or step into the middle and get muddy. At dawn, I texted Claire 3 words. "Meet me, Laboratory 6. No answer for 10 minutes. Then, see you. Bring your backup drive." I packed a small bag, 2 flash drives, my laptop, a notebook with our project notes, a list of dates and screenshots, and a stale granola bar. I felt like someone about to walk into a trap, but I also felt like someone who could build a switch to turn it off. On the ride to school, I rehearsed what I'd say to Principal Harris. I pictured his tie, his sigh, his default posture that meant he'd rather not be bothered. I pictured the email chain, the documented timestamps, the logins. I pictured Claire beside me, hands steady on her steering wheel, a different kind of courage on her face. As we pulled into the lot, Claire reached over and squeezed my hand. "Win or lose," she said, "we do it together." I believed her. I wanted to. The lot was mostly empty, mist lifting off the asphalt like something trying to disappear. We walked toward the side door that led to the lab, the one Mr. Bennett propped open on chilly mornings. The door was ajar. Someone had left it that way, good or bad. Inside, the corridor smelled like bleach and warm plastic. The lab was dark, screens sleeping, equipment huddled like animals. I flipped on my flashlight and we started the checklist. Time-stamped photos of every screen, copies of the code on external drives, a printout of the file properties of the party footage Claire had stolen. I felt ridiculous being methodical in a place that had been my refuge since middle school, but the checklist calmed me. Proof is a kind of armor. We worked fast. Claire had an uncanny ability to find things. USBs wedged under monitors, old SD cards behind the soldering station, a crumpled parking receipt with a timestamp that matched one of the party photos. We cataloged, photographed, and backed everything up to 2 separate drives. At 6:22, when we were double-checking a log file, my laptop pinged with a new email. Subject, nice try. Body, we saw you. Don't get cute. Attached, a single image. The lab at 6 a.m. My backpack on a table, a flash drive visible on top, and, worst of all, my hands mid-reach, captured in a frame that made it look like like I was moving the drive purposefully. I froze. Claire read over my shoulder and went completely still. "That's not possible," she whispered. "We were the only ones here." "We were," I said. "But someone's been here earlier. Someone's setting this up." Her eyes snapped to mine, and in that look I saw fear and fury, and the first crack of something else. Regret, resolve. "Okay," she said. "We need to find out who's watching the lab, and why they'd frame you." I wanted to ask her how deep this went, whether it pulled its strings tied to people who'd benefit from making us small. I wanted to keep the list of what-ifs from filling the room. Instead, I closed my laptop and said, "Then we start at the beginning." We left the lab with 2 drives, notes scrawled in a shaky hand, and one cold certainty. Someone had already decided I was the villain in a story they were telling. The only question left was whether we could flip the script before it burned us both. As we walked back into the morning light, Claire slid a tiny strip of paper across my palm. On it, in tidy handwriting I didn't recognize, was one line: "They'll make you look guilty. Make them prove it first." I looked up. Claire's mouth was a hard line. "No more jokes. Ready?" she asked. I wanted to say yes, like I meant it. Instead I said, "I don't know." She grinned, small and dangerous. "Good. That means you'll keep your head." We walked toward the main doors, and behind us, the parking lot emptied into a wash of gray. The next step wasn't clear. The plan wasn't clean. But the thing that had started as a science fair partnership was suddenly a longer experiment. Could 2 people who'd lived in separate orbits build something together that could actually change trajectory? We pushed open the doors and stepped into the school, and somewhere in the back of my head, another message buzzed through my phone, this time with no sender. "Welcome to the game. Move carefully."